Well, the Dodgers just signed Kyle Tucker to a 4-year, $240 million deal. Happy birthday to me. I was really thinking that. I was trying to believe it, will it so hard that he was going to be a Met, but that offer is unbeatable. It's an unbeatable contract offer. Nobody was going to be able to beat it, and we're going to talk about it. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball? That's going to be the conversation. We're running it back, James. Let's do it again.
I don't agree with you at all. This was an unbeatable contract offer. Let's just start right there. I'm totally against that notion.
4 for $240, that's an insane amount of money that they gave him.
I think there's a world where the Mets offer was kind of almost better.
I thought, where? Well, the 6 for $220? How?
6 for $220 with $0 in deferred money and a bigger signing bonus. So more money in your pan for the 4 years of the deal. More money, just more money in your hand, more money up front.
I think at the absolute worst, Kyle Tucker's
57 present day value. Again, I think that what this actually came down to is that the Dodgers machine has gotten so strong, it's hard to compete with them on equal footing. I think that's what it is. Because the Mets are the only team that can even claim they're on equal footing financially, get even close to it at this point. Just because
I guess the Blue Jays too.
Kind of the Blue Jays, but I think Canada changes things for the Blue Jays. I really do think that not every player just wants to move countries. I don't think every player wants to deal with passports or visas. I think that's a different thing. So I just think this is a piece from an Alden Gonzalez article this morning from The Athletic where it was Tucker's market was limited. In the end, seemingly only the Blue Jays were willing to go long-term. Sources in the industry were skeptical that Tucker wanted to play in Toronto. The Mets offered the deal in the $50 million a year range, sources told ESPN, but many were skeptical he'd want to play in New York. So then the Dodgers are like, here, you could be the 5th most important star on our team. We can almost guarantee you a ring over the 4 years of this deal. But you could probably guarantee a ring over the 4.
1 at least,
Yeah, 1 over the 4. And you could just chill out with great weather and hang out on the beach with your wife and you're expecting your first child. It's like, this
and
is
make so much
great.
money.
And make more money than any player in the league for each of the next 4 seasons, probably. Maybe until they sign Skubal next offseason. But it's just like, the machine is so strong now. That's what makes it very hard to defeat them on equal footing.
Yeah, and I guess that's like really the conversation because I talked about Kyle Tucker ad nauseum on my channel last night about how like this sucks. I wish Kyle Tucker didn't sign with the Dodgers, but also at the same time, like this brings in the salary cap conversation. This brings in are the Dodgers ruining baseball conversation, and I maybe this is a bad take, but I firmly stand on the fact that no, I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball, and no, I don't think that there should be a salary cap. Like this is a unique problem, and Kyle Tucker is a unique scenario, which I think does make everybody ring the alarm bells because I think we all agree that Kyle Tucker's very good, but he shouldn't be the highest paid player in baseball on a per year basis. That's insane. But also at the same time, like, I don't know, players should be getting paid as much as they physically can in a salary cap year. Kyle Tucker wouldn't be making even close to $50 million a season. There's no shot.
And if there was a salary cap, depending on where the hard cap is and the soft cap, he probably still would have signed with either the Mets, the Dodgers, or the Blue Jays. A salary cap was never going to help a small market team sign Kyle Tucker. But it is stark when you look at the fact that teams like, the Marlins and the Guardians are making our teams are going to be competing for playoff spots this year, and their entire team payroll is between $80 and $110 million. And Kyle Tucker's present day value of his contract this year is $57 million. Like that's an insane look for the league. Well, and I'm not saying they're ruining baseball, but this is just a bad look for everybody involved. That one team just kind of keeps picking up these infinity stones because they can.
We joked about it in a video that is going to come out, I think, at some point. But how, like, if the Guardians at some point, Kyle Tucker, like to the Guardians, would be an incredible fit. But obviously, they're never going to spend that money. And it's so funny that even if they gave like Kyle Tucker this kind of contract, I think it moves them up to like 18th in Major League Baseball in terms of what their payroll would look like next year. Like, the bigger problem is the teams that don't spend any money, but also at the same time, like, look at any sport. There's not really any stars that hit free agency that sign in these small market teams that aren't actively trying to spend or win in any sport. That doesn't really happen. So, like, yes, a Kyle Tucker, a Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge, those guys are always going to go to the big cities. Unfortunately, that's an advantage that they're always going to have over Kansas City or over St. Louis or over those teams. Like, basketball, like basketball with Giannis, I feel like that's one of the bigger guys who's recently chose to be in a small market place, but he wants out now. We know he actively does not want to play there. He wants to be a New York Knick. Like, you can't make stars not want to play in the biggest cities so that they can be the biggest stars that they can be.
No, for sure. I think the two leagues that everyone's always talking about comparing baseball to, of course, the NFL and the NBA. The way they've circumvented these issues is that the NFL, they took away all power to the players. The NFL doesn't really have genuine free agency. The teams have every single opportunity to stop.
But James,
players from doing so?
They all sign in like the first 48 hours when free agency starts. Surely that's a better offseason.
I don't even want to talk about that because that's such a stupid argument. I don't even care. Because also, like, if they sign in 48 hours, what do we talk about for the next 4 months?
Exactly.
I think it's fun to have this. It's like, oh, it can happen any moment. The fact that a Thursday night in January, it's like baseball was ablaze. I don't think that's bad for the game in terms of how many people are yapping about it. But I do think that it is. I mean, like the way that basketball does it, where you can sign your own players to more money than any other team. That's the way you keep the stars in the small markets. But then we've gone through it in the last decade with basketball, and we'll see it happens with the next when it happens with the next crop of stars, where even the players just sign that instinctively so they can get that money, and then they demand the trade, and the teams often acquiesce. Like I do wonder where Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Anthony Edwards are playing in 6 years. You know what I mean? But like, also,
it's possible.
But maybe just that money makes it not happen. And the funny thing about Tucker and the Dodgers, the funniest thing, like we're talking about ruining the league. I want to talk about him and the Dodgers for a hot second.
Yes.
Their outfield fucking sucked last year.
Horrible.
The Dodgers outfield was terrible. Cumulatively, every player that took a plate appearance for the Dodgers last year in the outfield, they had a 240 batting average, a 299 on base, and a 714 OPS. That was Lourdes Gurriel slash line. That was like every single game the Dodgers played. I know they have a super team. They're better than everybody else. Their rotation's amazing. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. It was like they had 3 Lourdes Gurriels playing the outfield every single game, offensively. So for them, it's like, yeah, holy shit. Like, we have such an opportunity to get this guy. No one in the league really wants him, which, again, that's a stain on the rest of the league.
Yes.
No one wants to offer him a full long-term contract. That's more of a stain on Tucker. Yeah, perfect opportunity for us.
Yeah, it was always the Dodgers, as you say, James. It was always the Dodgers. It never wasn't the Dodgers. The reason I was so in on the Mets thing was just because we hadn't heard much from the Dodgers, and it seemed like such a please save me, Dodgers. Like Dodgers. Never really thought it was going to be the Blue Jays in terms of like, I'm talking about this Mets offer. Clearly Tucker leaked it because he wanted more from somebody. I didn't think it was the Blue Jays. We now know it was the Dodgers. That's the only reason I thought the Mets had a chance, legit, and I think they did have a good chance. It seems like they actually had an opportunity to get him. But at the same time, my blind optimism, one, because I'm a Mets homer, of course, but two, because like we hadn't heard actually the Dodgers truly going aggressive yet, and then they did in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I don't think the Dodgers had to go aggressive until they realized that the Mets had their like best and final offer on the table. Yeah. I think it's kind of like old auctioneer stuff where it's like you match, and then when the other person's like, I'm at my limit, you're like, all right, here's $1 million and 1 penny. It's like that, but it's not really. I mean, it's extra $5 million a year. But I think if you asked people in front offices, we don't know. We can't do enough math on the economics of these deals. No. The Mets deal might have been objectively better. He just would have strongly preferred to play for the Dodgers. And Major League Baseball can't do anything about the fact that the Dodgers make more revenue than every other team. Dodgers have better weather than every other team, and the Dodgers have a better chance to win than every other team now at this point. So the teams are going to keep choosing them, and that part of this kind of sucks.
Yeah, it is the most desirable destination in sports. Who wouldn't want to live in LA with that weather? Who wouldn't want to play on a team that's going to have the best chance to win the World Series every year? If you're talking, and they're going to pay you, those are the three things that, like, yeah, if I was a baseball player, I'd want to go play for the Dodgers too. Why wouldn't you? But at the same time, I don't think it's the Dodgers' fault that this is happening. I think it's, one, a weird combination of the perfect storm for them, and two, again, we do have a lot of teams in baseball that just are not even remotely interested in a player of Kyle Tucker's standard, and that's a bigger issue. Like, all 30 teams in baseball should pretty much be interested in signing Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, but they're not. And again, yes. Only one team in baseball was even considering giving him more than a 5-year contract, which I think is, again, that's kind of telling about Tucker. Like, we've heard the murmurs all offseason, and it got kind of loud the other day on, I think it was the Chris Rose show, and he was talking about the fact that they think there's like an Anthony Rendon syndrome with Kyle Tucker. There's a lot of people in the game, and the fact that this got louder all offseason makes me think that there is a lot of smoke where there's fire, that he just seems to not super love the whole idea of playing this sport forever. So I think that for him also this wound up being kind of perfect again. And another thing about this is I think that we consider the Dodgers infallible in terms of their roster and the players on it. Like last year in the playoffs, the team averaged like 4.2 runs a game.
Yeah, they were beatable.
Under 4 runs a game in the World Series. So of course their offense is the thing they had to look at. And if you look at this team, like, no one's under 30 in their lineup at all besides Andy Pages, so we're still waiting to see if the consistency comes. Like, Mookie Betts last year looked really old. He didn't hit it all. Freddie Freeman is very old. Like, he's 35 this year. Like,
he's still awesome, but he is, without a doubt, not the same player he was 2 years ago. So, like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, like they 100% are trying to also insulate themselves against what's very normal aging for stars who are approaching their mid-late 30s. I think that part makes sense too. Again, I'm not trying to apologize to the Dodgers, but this is also
absolutely not.
And it's a long time ago now, but I kind of starting to remember because we have the video that's waiting in the hopper about every 2019 free agent. They tried to do this exactly with Bryce Harper in 2019.
Yep.
They offered him like a 4-year deal with, at the time, I think it was like $150 or $160 million, which would have been the high. I mean, again, these contracts didn't get crazy really back then anyway, but they tried this. But a team like the Phillies was just like, no, we'll give more money, more money, more money. And that's how they got him. Or a guy like Harper just wanted to be with one team forever. I think also was kind of a big picture thing for him.
Yeah, it's back to the conversation. Like, are the Dodgers ruining baseball? I think no, because baseball is also such a unique sport too, where there's so many games, there's so many things that happen, and relatively speaking, it's the most individual team game that there is in the entire world. Like, there's no sport where every single player is on a team, but also every single little thing that they do matters, and also at the same time, you might not actually be able to do anything in a game. Like Kyle Tucker and Shohei Ohtani will have games where the Dodgers win and they didn't do a thing. They will also have games where they lose and they put the team on their back. Like, baseball is so unique in that standpoint. That being said, the Dodgers are clearly the best team in baseball. They the separation between them and the next best team is massive right now. Absolutely huge. They are the overwhelming favorites. They're going to have like a minus 200, it feels like, to win the World Series possibly. But at the same time, that's like that. They are beatable. It is still baseball. There's going to be injuries throughout the season. You may have to make sure you have the depth to be good enough. You have to make sure that these players even stay at the level that they were at from the previous year. There's a lot going on here.
Totally. And also, how would you stop this kind of spending at this point? Because right now, it seems like the Dodgers and the Mets, because they're repeat offenders of the competitive balance tax, are paying 110% tax rates for every dollar they go over this third level of tax, which both teams live over. And both teams are ready to go way over it again for a player like Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, so Kyle Tucker's getting paid what? Like, technically, he's getting paid like $100 million a year with the tax penalty?
I think it's like $124 million a year with the Dodgers tax penalty. So if a team's willing to do that, it's like, damn, what do we actually do to curtail that spending at all? And I want to shout out a great tweet from Mission Valley Mafia. This is a burner account from the Padres Twitter world. And this is always where you find the real nitty-gritty good stuff about what's going on with teams. It's always going to be the rivals that are figuring it out. And he has shouted out the fact that the Dodgers really, since their bankruptcy hearing, I think in 2012 or 13, before the Frank McCourt sold the team to the Guggenheim Group, got a real sweetheart TV deal as part of revenue sharing from Major League Baseball, where it's very hard to find information on this. I have an ESPN.com article from 2013 written by Christy Dosh.
Don't know who that is.
And then a Forbes article from the same year written by Mike Ozanian, basically about the fact that in the Dodgers bankruptcy hearing, they had X revenue, but it really was much, much more revenue. It's because there was a loophole between their TV deal and their carriage rights and how much of the risk the team was assumed to be taking on, which actually turned out not to really be true. So the Dodgers are pocketing like hundreds of millions of dollars a year on their deal that's not being taxed by the revenue share. There was also a great article by this past November by Jake McKibben of Brewer Fanatic that I found on Reddit. Yeah, just citizen, great guy. And he has like a great table that shows that their average annual savings, this I think is in terms of hundreds of millions, or it's just millions, 70 million a year that's not being taxed, that they're just stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. And it's not going to the revenue share. Kind of bullshit, because you're supposed to be giving up 34% of your TV contract in the revenue share. The Dodgers are only giving up a much smaller percentage of it. So this is really just the rich getting richer. There's not...
Yeah, that's the bigger problem right there. Yeah, how in the world did we ever allow the Dodgers to get away with this?
Well, because at the time, I think Major League Baseball was concerned about where the Dodgers would be in 10 years. And again, I think they're pretty happy about it technically. Yeah. Now it's like, holy shit, we created a monster here. Give an inch, take a mile. But when the Dodgers were being sold, they were kind of a joke. And I think the league, I'm sure, was like, we need to get the LA market back and rolling. Like, this is like the most TVs of any team that's going to be on in the whole fucking country, basically. So they gave them that TV deal, let them make a little money, and now it's tenfold. And what are you going to do about it? This table from the Brewer Fanatic guy, Jake McKibben, it says that their cumulative savings is over $1 billion since 2014 with these tax savings.
And then there it all is. There's the luxury tax that they pay every single year. It's just in the extra money that they get because of a loophole.
Yeah, and it's just these kind of things happen. I don't remember if that was Selig or Manfred in 2013. Manfred, Selig is the guy that likes to turn his head the other way for things like this.
Well, Selig, I think, was the one that made the McCourt sell, if I'm correct, or started the whole McCourt thing, right? Because that was like at the end of the 2010s.
Well. Yeah, but it's They do have a
or
lot.
2000s, my bad.
Well, yeah, a lot of opportunities to do this stuff, and then you could just add vanity players like Kyle Tucker when you want to.
And then also, they do have one of the most popular athletes on the entire world in Shohei Ohtani, who makes just an insane amount of money for that organization as well. It's crazy.
And they do only pay him on the books $2 million. I know it affects their luxury tax $46 million in present day value, but the fact that on the books it's only $2 million, it's like, wow, you can do so much with that money. That again, you have to hold a lot of it in escrow, but the Guggenheim Group has so many assets that like you can still borrow against it. Like it's unlimited what they have. Like it's crazy, and what they're doing with it is, I guess it's worth it because you want to win the championship every year.
Do you think the Dodgers are ruining baseball?
I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball, but this is the first time where I've like blinked a few times and been like, we're going to lose a lot of games in 2027.
Oh yeah, no, the 2027 is going to be over under 99.5 games in 2027, James.
I still think over, just because someone's going to fracture, whether it be the owners or the players. Like someone's going to bend their knee at some point. Like that's just how labor negotiations work. But this is the time where I was like, damn,
this sucks a little bit for that.
This super sucks for the game. Like I hate that. The way that baseball is being talked about right now, the national lexicon is just...
You need to look at your phone.
What happened?
You need to look at your phone.
Stop!
What?
No way.
All right. We now did our videos on Bo Bichette. We've calmed down. We can actually end this Kyle Tucker video not abruptly where we're like, Bo Bichette signed with the Mets, bye! We'll do this one a little bit better, but... No, I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Mets just got Bo Bichette. All right, other teams can make moves.
Yeah, and it is funny. Like this does feel like a bit of a panic move for the Mets with Bo Bichette, but only the fact of they offered them a 1-year opt-out. Yes. Maybe if they offered Kyle Tucker the 1-year opt-out, that could have put it over the top for him to be a Met. I'm sure also some kind of framework for the Mets and Bo Bichette was already in place as the Kyle Tucker negotiation was happening. So there could have been the world where the Mets had both Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, which would have been kind of cool. But it's again. I did think that after the Kyle Tucker move, we'd see the Mets recede a lot, and a lot of other just National League teams recede a lot and kind of, flip over and let the Dodgers pat their belly. But this is a nice indication that, like, baseball's
at least one team in the National League is trying to beat the Dodgers.
Other teams are going to keep trying. That's kind of the whole crux of the conversation: is baseball ruined or not?
Yeah, I think like the one thing to talk about like what the Dodgers have done to baseball, and I'll use the Bo Bichette contract as an example, is like objectively speaking, that's an insane contract the Mets gave. A 1-year opt-out with the qualifying offer attached and paying him $40+ million a year after coming off of an injury where didn't really move around very well the last time we saw him actually play baseball. The athleticism was not particularly there. Like objectively speaking, bad contract. I don't know if Bo Bichette can ever be worth $40 million a year. That's like the absolute peak. But for a team like the Mets, for a team like the Dodgers, what used to be the Yankees, but now maybe the Red Sox, the Phillies, the Blue Jays, they can take on that added risk of giving out these aggressive contracts where teams like the Pirates and the Guardians don't do this because they don't feel they have the capability to take on this risk. That being said, that's wrong. These teams all have the ability to take on risk. That's why they have all this money. That's why they own these baseball teams. They weren't going to sign Kyle Tucker. The Pirates weren't going to give Bo Bichette $126 million over 3 years. Like that is where the people who have this conversation with Dodgers ruining baseball make their point, is that those teams would never sign these guys. But there are plenty of other good players and plenty of other free agents that have been signed to, like Ranger Suarez could have been signed by any team. Any team could have signed Ranger on that contract.
Definitely. And also, again, Bo Bichette, kind of any team as well, because you do mitigate risk the more money you're willing to pay per year for a player. We're seeing that with Kyle Tucker, where again, one team in the entire league was willing to give Kyle Tucker more than a 5-year deal. And it seems like maybe 1 or 2 teams in the whole league were willing to give Bo Bichette more than a 3-year deal. So that's kind of what this comes down to at the end of the day. And there is, of course, you're going to have more of an appetite for risk with the more capital you're starting out with. That's why teams like the Mets and the Dodgers, who else been offering these big short-term contracts around? Who are some other ones that we have out there?
I mean, the Red Sox have done it in the past. They've given out big money.
Yeah.
The Giants have been trying to give people money. The Blue Jays have been begging to give people money.
But of course, there's more of an appetite for risk when you just have more money, of course. And a guy like, you guys probably hear about like terms dollars for war a lot. It's how I think is like a very rudimentary way that these front offices kind of evaluate players and figure out how much money to give them. And a number you hear thrown around a lot is basically like $11 million. That number includes pitchers and especially relief pitchers, where dollar for war kind of goes haywire because relievers are getting like 2 WAR a season, but they're really expensive for the 2 WAR they're giving out, like the best ones in the league. So when you take out relievers, the number comes down to something that's more like between $7 and $9 million. And Bo projects as a 4-win player at 9 at $10 million, $40 million a year. Like that's kind of where that money comes from. And the Mets are like, we're fine with not getting excess value in a Bo Bichette contract because excess value is not important to us because we're starting out with billions of dollars.
And that's where those smaller market teams are probably like, we need that excess value. That's where we actually make money and turn this into a business now that's profitable for us, is when we get that excess value out of these players. That being said, I think the bigger issue is that we do have a lot of owners in baseball that aren't necessarily caring about putting a good team on the field, don't see the vision of if you actually build a winning organization, you're going to make money hand over fist. It's known. The playoff revenues that you get are crazy. The TV stuff that you'll get will be crazy. Everything will get better as your team gets more and more successful. Also, at the same time, there is a weird conversation to have, too, about with the Dodgers and the Guggenheim Group. It's a group. You get a group of owners owning a team, then everyone can start spending money.
But that's a double-edged sword because you have a group of people owning a team. Ask Yankee fans what it's been like since the group purchased them. Whereas, like, if you have a group, you have to answer to more people.
There's still all the Steinbrenners, though, but
there's a group there. Like, there's basically, like, theoretically a board of directors, like what happened for a Fortune 500 company, where if you want to hurt your profit margin, you have to get approved by a bunch of people who might not want to win instead of hurting profit margin. The Guggenheim Group does have the ability of just having, and we said earlier in the show, just an overwhelming amount of assets. Combine that with the surplus value of their TV deal. Combine it with just weather that you get for playing in Los Angeles, California, and space and big houses and beautiful beaches. And then you add on the fact that now all the Japanese players want to play with you too. It's like that's how you get all these advantages to where it does appear like you're ruining baseball. So after the Tucker contract, here's a funny line I had in my NBC article about it. The Dodgers now have 8 players. This was also from a June Lee tweet. Making with a total contract value over $100 million.
Dang.
3 teams in the league have 6. Can you name the 3 teams with 6 players with $100 million?
Mets?
No. Mets did.
Bo Bichette, I think, a lot. Yeah,
I think Bichette just gave them 4 or 5.
Yeah, because Manaya's under 100. Yeah, okay. So it would be, give me the Blue Jays.
Yep, Blue Jays are one of the 3.
Phillies.
Phillies are another one. Last one.
Red Sox?
No, Red Sox are around 4 or 5 too.
Giants?
Giants have 5. They're next tied with the Yankees for 3rd. I think the Mets now, unless the Mets are only
Rangers?
4 now. They
just moved Simeon.
Yeah,
but
they
got
now
Nimmo,
Simeon's one of them.
Yeah.
No, well, this one's very obvious. It's a big market. This team
Red
spends
Sox?
like big. No.
This team spends. Yankees?
Spends, but they're trying not to spend now.
Yankees.
Yankees and Giants both have 5.
What? Who am I? Braves?
No, you're missing a big one.
I'm missing a big one.
San Diego Padres.
Oh! Yeah, there's a big one. Forgot about the Padres.
And funny, 7 teams don't have a single active player that crosses that line.
You should probably have somebody that gets paid $100 million in your org.
The Pirates have somebody. Everybody, there's no excuse for anybody out there not to have one. The player with the most total value in their contract in the Reds org. You know who it is?
Player with the most total value actively in the Reds contract in the Reds organization. I'm just trying to think around this. Is it Ke'Bryan Hayes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, terrible.
And again, like one of the Phillies guys is Nick Castellanos, who's exactly the $100 million. One of the Blue Jays guys is Andres Jimenez, who had $106 million. So there is a difference between your $100 million players. I think that's what the Dodgers have done the best at. I think that's what the Mets are trying to emulate as best they can. I think that's where we're going to see a lot more of these big money teams go in the future, because the way that you lose your advantage as a big money team is destroying your books.
Yes.
And that's what now these teams like the Dodgers and the Mets are trying to avoid.
We'll see how it goes. But end of the day, I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. It's just they're making it harder. Go out and win. I'll tell you this. There needs to be a villain in baseball. We've lacked a real villain since the Yankees of the 90s and early 2000s. Like the Dodgers, this is the most hated team in baseball. It's not even close. It's going to be electric every time your team plays them, whether you're a Met fan, a Philly fan, whoever you root for. It's electric. You want to beat the fucking Dodgers.
Target on their backs?
They've always had the target on their backs. But you son of a bitch.
The one thing I do hate about this is that, like, I have friends who are not baseball people texting me today.
This is the worst.
And that's the part of it. The way that this is souring the public mindset of baseball, because we know as we're about to go into a massive labor dispute next year, that public perception is critical in labor disputes. There's going to be everyone and their mother, all these writers rallying against the players, trying to side with the owners, looking for that salary cap. That all it's going to do is save money for billionaires, hurt the money for players, and will not make the bad team spend any more than they're spending right now. So just everyone be on the lookout for that to start happening.
Yeah, I've seen it. There's a Madden YouTuber. His name's Swift. Nice dude. But this tweet is the epitome of what we're trying to explain here. It's quote tweeting Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers. First line, I don't watch baseball. That should be the biggest thing. If you don't watch baseball, relatively speaking, your opinion is kind of moot here because you don't actually understand what's going on. I don't watch baseball, but this league seems awful. You basically can't be a fan of 25 to 30 teams in the sport, which is funny because you definitely can, because baseball's had the most parity of any sport by far in the last 20 years in all of professional sports.
This is going to be the first time in the AFC in, what was it, like 16 years that you're not going to have Brady, Mahomes, Manning, or Flacco in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So, like,
ooh, football's so exciting. The free agency they have, the salary cap. It's so much. The Eagles, thank God the Eagles aren't in the playoffs because they stink to watch. That would be what, like the 5th straight year for them?
People also always talk about like how much better the other offseasons are because of the quick free agency. The other offseasons, first of all, NBA free agency, they do it quickly because no one would care in the summer. No one is sitting around like baseball. Baseball is it's kind of nice that we said it before, February, January. I mean, well, not February, January and December, all this stuff going on. The NFL, they get theirs done quickly just because the NFL draft is the story of their offseason.
And then they have OTAs. Yeah.
And people just get obsessed with fantasy football all summer. Like this is, and the NBA kind of has a summer league now, which has taken on a bit of a life of its own with how.
And they have the draft too.
Yeah, and they have the draft, but their draft happens like directly. It's like 20 minutes after the finals they start the draft. I don't really understand that calendar a lot.
The final also ends in what, the end of June? Like they play the most insane schedule ever. Like
I get mad and they want to change things, but I don't know. I don't know how much.
Remember when KD went to the Warriors? Remember that?
July 4th.
Yeah, like remember how the Warriors won all the time, and people were. I didn't see people saying I can only root for 5 teams in the NBA right now.
Well, it did kind of feel like that for those years in the NBA. I was like, we're just going to watch LeBron play the Warriors.
And they had a salary cap.
And they have salary. But now they have a more stringent salary cap. And now that actually has brought parity. So for all the salary cap people watching yelling at me, the aprons have worked in the NBA in terms of parity. But it also kind of sucks now for player movement. That used to be fun in the NBA.
The product's way worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of the rules, what's going on in the court. But yeah.
That's it. I got nothing else. You got anything else there, James?
No, better conclusion, but
I think it's definitely a better ending than how me and James literally got a text and we're freaking out. I was like, Bo Bichette to the Mets? What are you talking about? I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that's our opinion. You guys let us know in the comment section what you're thinking. Don't forget to subscribe to the Windup if you enjoy the baseball content. You can follow James on social media at
James Shiano.
I'm Draftneck Mark. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.